And there we are. Welcome once again to Faces of Stone.
There they are, Albert. Faces of Stone.
So we are talking about the finale of Twin Peaks: The Return tonight. If you haven't seen up to that point, and if you haven't, why would you be watching this? You may want to stop watching now. I'm Marc-Anthony Macon.
I'm Noah Diamond.
I'm Amanda Sisk.
And we are fresh from watching the two-part finale of Twin Peaks live on Showtime. And there's a couple things we should talk about.
Yeah, how do you want to tackle this, guys? I mean, we could go right to the beginning of 17, or do you want to talk overview first?
I think something that might be fun to do, since this is our last time, and it was a huge event, that we just talk a little bit about what we did today, what we did to prepare for this, like just ourselves mentally, emotionally. What did everybody do? Is this a big deal to everybody?
Yeah, well, I mean, I had the show playing all day from the beginning to the end. So I led right up until so I've been just kind of marathoning the whole thing and leading right into the new episodes. I also got cherry pie. Well, I didn't get cherry pie. I wanted to get cherry pie. There was no cherry pie the place that I went. I got strawberry rhubarb pie and pretended it was cherry pie.
We had a sweet potato pie today for the same reason.
Yeah. I can imagine cherry pies are scarce. And I've been drinking out of my...
yes, sure. Everybody's getting cherry pies.
Right. How about the two of you?
Well, I have been pushing away the obsession, or pushing away the really digging into this and talking about it a lot. And I was a huge fan of Lost, and I, did those website games, and I mean, I was a huge fan, and it broke me. It broke my heart. And so I didn't want to do that with this, but I have been so excited today, and I think it's probably just too much coffee and excitement, but I'm really sick to my stomach, and like had to run to the bathroom several times during the finale to throw up. And so I'm really emotionally invested in this, and it was really, really, really emotional for me today. Yeah, but we also watched everything. We just watched it ahead of Showtime because, we have to like prep and get ready for the show. Noah?
And don't you look lovely?
Thank you. I'm wearing my owl earrings again. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, Amanda and I have been, making our way back through the season so that we could sort of get the first 16 episodes fresh in our minds heading into these final two. I've been, reading everything I can get my hands on. I figure this has probably been the last week, or maybe the penultimate week of, spending lots of time thinking about Twin Peaks every day. So I have soaked up as much as I could. And yeah, I mean, the sitting down to the finale, I think despite not knowing what to expect, we all expected certain things, or wondered if certain half expectations would be met. And now, having seen the final 2 hours, I don't know how to feel. Maybe we'll figure it out.
Yeah, well, I guess we gotta get to now.
That's why we're here. I mean, figure it out together.
Before we dive right into, like going scene by scene or talking about individual things, did you overall enjoy yourselves? Can we say that first? Do we want to?
Yeah. I mean, but I don't know. I'm still fraught. I've been so fraught. This has all just been so difficult for me. I can't. It's just been so. I mean, I've already lived through one ending of Twin Peaks, and I knew that I don't know. Like when the titles came up. Major emotional reaction, and I was like holding back the tears, going, "Don't cry this early. I know I'm gonna cry. Don't cry this early, because you're sitting here with Noah and he's got to deal with you. So just don't cry yet."
But I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, I've already lived through one ending of Twin Peaks. It's sort of like, I've seen an eclipse already. or, I was there when that horrible thing happened the first time, and I've lived through this. Let me guide you through it.
And then I'm not going to talk about the ending.
All right.
I think in the most general sense, I feel like this two-part finale that we saw tonight was consistent with the Twin Peaks experience to the extent that the first hour, episode 17, felt like a very fast-moving, one thing after another, checking all the boxes, all the stuff we've been waiting for, so many things we've been thinking we might see. It all just unfolded at a breakneck pace. And then the second hour was challenging and abstruse and not the warm, reassuring glow that we might have felt from 17. That's not to say I didn't like it. I'm still working on that.
I think we
but very much the way this season and this series has pretty consistently played right into our love of this world and this material. And also at the same time, it has consistently turned around and stupefied us and challenged us in ways that that were sometimes enjoyable, sometimes frustrating.
Sometimes both at the same time.
Yeah.
So, shall we start from the beginning? Let's lay it all out.
Well, before we start, I'd like to say that I wanted to title this episode of Faces of Stone. We're pretty fucking far from okay, because we were talking about how close we were before, earlier today, and how close to okay are we in this series, and we're pretty fucking far from okay. That's how we started. Title, as I said, I had a major emotional response. Anyone else reacting to this? Did anyone else do that thing of this is the last time we're gonna?
Yeah, I did. It's and assuming that we see no indication of a season 4, this could very well be the last Twin Peaks we ever get. I don't think 25 years from now we're going to have another incarnation. If it's not going to happen soon, it's not going to happen eventually, probably. So it was a very emotional moment.
I mean, I feel like, David Lynch had ample opportunity to express things he wanted to say, and Mark Frost. Mm-hmm. So I don't think they're going to be like, oh, shit, we're not getting season 4. Right. Well, I don't know why David Lynch has jazz hands, but it seems right. I think that the first scene involves Tammy because I have written duck lips.
Yeah, we're in Buckhorn at the beginning. Duck lips?
Yes. She's fine when she's not talking or drinking wine. If she's using her mouth at all.
Hey, that's true of all of us.
If I have fine Bordeaux like that, I'm going to duck lip it too.
Basically, the first thing that happens in episode 17 is David Lynch talks for several minutes and just unspools a whole lot of stuff about Judy.
And he should have talked about it earlier, really. Really, if they'd been on this case together with Albert should have known. It was only fair.
He says, Albert, I've been keeping something from you for the last 16 episodes. Chow Day is the name of the malevolent.
Judy!
Yes. So of course all this speculation as to who Judy is, and it's just something we could never have known.
Never.
Although I'm to imagine that this is the experiment, this is the mother, this is Chow Day is this evil creature that created Bob?
I think that's it. An evil kook showing the card to Daria and saying, this is what I want. Yeah. Judy is where you...
is that thing with the... Right? You don't want to know what that is.
Yeah.
Hello, Eugenio Hertz. Greetings from Brazil. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Have you seen it in Brazil or not yet?
Yeah, we don't, because if you haven't seen this episode yet, you may want to not watch us now and wait and come back and watch this after you've seen the episode, because we're going to spoil everything.
We already have. We spoil everything. All right, let's move on. So we get the Jiao Day. He explains
Jiao Day. 2 birds with one stone.
Right.
Yes, and there are 2 Coopers.
And Ray Monroe is a paid FBI informant.
Yes. Of course he is.
We knew it.
Of course he is. He's a little smarmy Jerry Lee Lewis motherfucker. I almost said Jerry Lewis. That would have been bad. Anyway. So he's a paid informant. Okay, so what happens next? That's strange even for Cooper is what I have written down. Oh, Albert must be talking.
There's a few things before that. Gordon gets a phone call. He says, "Why haven't I heard from Cooper?" And he gets a phone call. Actually, before that, Albert says, "Has my watch stopped, or is that one of the Marx Brothers?"
Yes.
Which, of course, I appreciate.
Of course, I thought of you. Yes.
Besides, like Mark Frost's well-known love of the Marx Brothers, I think it's a sort of semi-reference to Groucho in A Day at the Races, taking Harpo's pulse and looking at his watch and saying, "Either he's dead or my watch has stopped." Anyhow, the message that Cooper gave Bushnell in the hospital to give to Gordon Cole if he called was, "I am headed for Sheriff Truman's." 253 numerologically becomes 10, 2 plus 5 plus 3, and he describes 10 as the number of completion.
Right.
Gordon Cole says, "Dougie is Cooper? How the hell is this?"
Oh, Gordon Cole.
I'm glad that the number of completion is 10 and it's not 7, because it shows he didn't read Joseph Campbell, but but you know, it's usually 7. So it's nice that it's 10. We get away from the pagans and the Christians. I like staying away from both groups. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. I don't mean to offend anybody. Don't write any bad comments on me.
So
I keep looking down at my notes and I realize I have none. I wrote nothing tonight.
Yeah. Oh, God. At one point I thought, why write notes? What am I?
I'm just going to sit here and enjoy it. That was my thing.
Right. Anyway. Okay. I'm sorry.
Okay. So.
And then indeed, Cole says, "That's strange even for Cooper."
What's he talking about?
I think the whole idea that Dougie is Cooper and that he stuck a fork. Yeah. He kind of recaps the entire Dougie adventure. He stuck a fork in an electrical outlet.
And then he says that's strange even for Cooper. I think Albert says that.
Yes.
Oh, Albert says it. No, in my head, Gordon says everything. Yeah. Yeah. So that's like that.
Everything, or just like everything Twin Peaks? Really?
Everything.
I've got to take the pie
out. Now we have a little scene with our friends in the Sheriff's Department jail.
Why?
I don't know.
So many times.
Yeah.
Marc-Anthony, tell me.
Sorry. I was reading something in the chat there and I didn't hear what you said. Can you say that again?
Why did they make us go back to that jail cell so many times?
I have no answer for that. Because it would make you ask that question eventually. And because you just need more bleeding drunks and blind monkey noise making people in your life.
He's so gross.
Yeah, and by the way, like I kept trying to figure this out while rewatching the series. If anyone but Chad sees him, and it doesn't seem that they do.
Oh.
And in fact, like when they show Naido and her cell, like I've never seen him in a shot with anyone else. It just seems to be parroting things, and only when Chad is there to be annoyed by it.
Why would that be?
I have no idea what that means. It's just an observation that maybe I didn't even observe correctly, but it kind of seems to be that way.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because nobody else is yelling shut up at him.
Joe.
Nobody else is yelling shut up at him, and they would be.
Just check.
Well, maybe not shut up, but whatever. They'd be like, what's wrong with that guy?
And you would think that, like, you know, Andy and Hawk and everyone at the office are pretty decent people. And if there was someone that was bleeding out of their mouth constantly, they might be like, oh, let's get this person some medical attention.
Yes. That's what I was thinking. But it's
true. He may be inebriated, but he should not bleed out in our cell.
All right. Well, if he's imaginary, he might be less disgusting to watch next time.
So James and Freddie never acknowledged that guy, huh?
No.
That's interesting.
Not that I can think of, yeah.
That's really interesting. Maybe they'll deal with it in the next.
Yeah, he's probably related to Audrey somehow. We'll find out next.
So Chad and Drippy Mouth Guy, they say fuck you and fucker and things like that. Then we get Mr. C driving, which is interspersed with Nido sleeping and making noise.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think the next kind of scene we have is Ben Horn. He's on the phone with the police in Wyoming.
And Jerry's there.
Yeah, and we now know, as indicated in episode 16, that Jerry Horn thinks his binoculars killed Ricky.
And that's why he said bad binoculars.
He didn't. From what I understand,
turn himself in.
He couldn't even quite call them binoculars. His binoculars.
He went and found the police and turned himself in, which I think is
killing,
terribly sweet.
For using binoculars to kill his nephew,
or to turn the binoculars in, really.
Mm-hmm. to accuse aforementioned bad binoculars. I was there. I saw.
So he said, make arrangements and bring clothes because he took them off.
Right.
On the way to Wyoming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ben Horn, by the way, it seems to have remained a mostly decent guy throughout the run of this new series. He didn't do anything too creepy.
He seems pretty put upon. He seems like he's getting some incident karma in his life.
Yep.
But he's really having to take care of everybody.
He had some stuff coming. Repentance is one thing.
Well, but after he got smashed in the head, he started taking care of things. Maybe something horrible happened to Donna, and we'll find out about it in the next. Oh,
Mr. C then arrives at the coordinates, the place near Jackrabbit's Palace, the place where Nido was found.
Yes.
The vortex appears slowly.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. C vanishes.
Yes.
He winds up in that place that, for all we know, is the White Lodge. Major Briggs' head is
disembodied head of Major Briggs,
right, and maybe another one in a cage.
I thought that was Mr. C. was in the cage.
Was that Mr. C?
So it felt to me like this was some sort of security system. It's like, oh no, Mr. C, this is the White Lodge. We'll have none of your shenanigans here. And it kept him in this cage, and then they spat him out near the sheriff's station.
Yeah, right.
Their little thing that, transfers things to film where this is ostensibly taking place.
Right. So, then he encounters Andy outside the sheriff's station. Andy takes him for Agent Cooper. Mm-hmm. But we cut away to the jail where Nido is hysterical.
Yeah, she can sense.
She's not her normal, cool, calm, and collected self.
No. She doesn't have that je ne sais quoi she did just moments before when Mr. C was not approaching. She's lost him.
Having a rough time. Mr. C walks in, he meets Lucy and Frank. Lucy also accepts him as Agent Cooper.
Right.
Frank seems suspicious from the start. Yeah.
I want to break in here and say I want to be the emotional reaction person. when Evil Coop ended up in Twin Peaks, I had a very, very bad reaction. When I said, we saw him at Jack Rabbit's Palace, I turned to Noah and I said, he's in Twin Peaks! And it was very upsetting to me. How did you...
I feel that way too. It was like he's violating Twin Peaks. It's like, no. This is only good Dale is supposed to be here. You have gone too far, Mr. C. Yeah.
Yes. All the other things you did, fine. We'll forget it.
And like seeing Andy there, and he's even got like, a little picnic basket or whatever. And it's just like, here he's coming into fairy tale land and he's going to murder everyone. Who knows? So yeah, I got emotional about that too.
Yeah, it sort of seemed unfair. Like, we've been waiting all this time to see the correct Cooper in Twin Peaks.
Yes. And then when he gets there, we get to enjoy it for maybe a half a second before we all start going, wait a minute, are we starting a new season or show even right now?
Yeah.
But we'll get to that later.
Yeah, we're going to have to wait for Fire Walk with Me, but a little faster, please. So then we register a moment where it seems significant that Mr. C doesn't know he's talking to Frank and not Harry. But we later get we get our skepticism raised again in a moment. The Andy Lucy bit that Andy saw in his White Lodge vision, we see that now, though it's not entirely clear why. I'm shocked. Then Chad gets himself out of jail with a key that he keeps cleverly hidden in his hollow boot heel.
Mm-hmm. And what did I say? I said, Leo, only a very shady person would have a shoe like that.
But the David Lynch shoe fetish.
I would like to also say that in my notes here, and I'm sorry I keep going back, but I'm checking the comments because they're moving along pretty fast, and there's some very emotional reactions to the show right now.
There are.
And it's really interesting to see, so keep writing. But I've never in my life had to say of a TV show or a movie, film, any media that I was watching visually, what is he now? Corn? Hair? Which I did tonight. I said of Evil Coop. Wait, what is he now? Corn? Hair?
At which point did you say this? Where?
When he was in the White Lodge. He was in the White Lodge in the cage, and they pulled back, and he was some sort of wavy thing.
Right. Corn or hair.
So I did say that. Anyway, let's move. But it was interesting to think of like what happens to him when he goes in the White Lodge. And what happened was that he was in a cage. He wasn't allowed free reign of the White Lodge. Bad Coop couldn't go in the White Lodge and be free.
Right.
I kept thinking, what happens if he ends up there?
Yeah, I kind of figured he would show up there and he would do something bad there or affect it in some way. But it seems like they just kind of have a system in place. System? It's it almost digested him in a way. Just like
It's the Briggs security system.
Major Briggs set that up. I'll just leave my head here and everything will be safe.
It's Briggs. Briggs should pay me now. Anyway. So he gets the key out of his shoe, his shady shoe.
Yeah.
With a shady,
very suspect shoe.
Why do you need to keep a key in your shoe?
In case you get imprisoned by your employer.
Okay, well, now this is something, because Chad seems to wait to use that key until mouth drippy blood guy falls asleep.
This is true, yeah.
He doesn't want that guy to see him doing this. So
how long has Chad
going
been
with
in
the
that
theory that bloody drippy mouth guy is maybe. I mean, it hadn't occurred to me until you said it in this conversation. But if only Chad can see or is imagining bloody drippy mouth guy, who I'm just going to call Judy to avoid confusion.
Okay, yeah, that helps.
You're going to call him Judy?
I'm just kidding.
I was really confused until you started calling him. Now I get it.
Oh, so in Frank's office, he offers Mr. C coffee, which Mr. C does not accept. which
No.
is
And
It was-
proof that he's evil. He doesn't want coffee. He is not Dale.
I mean,
Right.
even if I had nothing to do with Dale versus not Dale, somebody says no to coffee, you just
Yeah, it's just like
you're suspicious right away. And if he had asked for tea, they should have just shot him right then.
the woodsmen drink decaf.
oh.
They drink Sanka decaf.
Dirty bearded men in a room drinking decaf coffee.
Yep, it's a Tuesday night.
So
Chad gets a gun out of a locker in the basement.
yeah,
Guy with the bloody face drippy thing, he like rips off his bandage or something.
yeah, he has like
He
an
didn't go
apparatus
really
there.
far
There's
as I thought he would.
some sort. What was that?
I thought
Amanda?
he was going to go really far with that. I thought we were going to get him ripping his face off.
Whole face off.
We
yeah,
didn't.
Unfortunately, we didn't get that far.
Thank you. Thank you for not like
I was-
just
I was
gratuitously
hoping
ripping
for,
his face
like
off.
a nice little poltergeisty face rip, but we didn't really get it.
Chad confronts Andy with a gun, calls him a pussy.
Yeah,
And, yeah.
and Freddy's just not going to have it.
Freddy punches his way out of jail, which we assumed he could probably do.
He could have done it any time.
Then he
Also,
punches
Chad could have left at any time. It seems, pretty much any of them could have left at any time. They just stayed there.
Yeah, he didn't want the drunk, bloody guy to start screaming, I guess, but nobody can hear the drunk, bloody guy screaming, and he's been screaming the whole time anyway, so why does he care if this guy sees?
Yeah, I mean, if brains were dynamite, Chad couldn't blow his nose, but
That's
I mean,
folksy there. Our own little Dan Rather. Our faces of stone folksy Dan Rather.
oh yeah.
All right. So,
face the
so
nation
he
of
gets
stone.
out.
So yeah, so they all get out. They take them all out of the jail.
They all get out of jail.
Now that this has happened, let's just release everybody.
And to
they
that
go
effect-
upstairs because what's her name is freaking out.
Lucy
Right.
gets a phone call. Lucy gets a phone call and she says, "Who?" And now we realize Lucy's cell phone thing actually had a point. Lucy, who can't understand why someone on a cell phone can move through space, and in an earlier episode, Sheriff Truman enters talking on the phone to her and she faints because she can't process that. Well, now she's actually on the phone with somebody who she also knows to be in the other room.
Yes.
So this actually does make something of that scene where Lucy's cell phone thing seemed, we didn't know what to make of that before.
It was really strange at that time, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember being concerned for Lucy, thinking that she was kind of having some kind of episodes and it was going to get worse. But
Yeah,
instead, she ended up shooting the villain.
she sure did.
Oh my God, didn't she though?
Because real Cooper talks to Frank and he says, "We're just entering Twin Peaks city limits. Is the coffee on?"
Okay. Evil Coop knew that was not Harry Truman. Just a point.
Did he?
Yeah, he said, "I'm Sheriff Truman," and he kind of stopped and went like that, and he said, "I'm."
Because he has all of original Cooper's memories.
Yeah, he seems to.
So he would have imagined that he was going to be talking to Harry Truman and not Frank.
Yeah.
Um,
Lucy shoots Mr. C. That was a nice surprise.
and
And
we've been waiting for Lucy to shoot someone since the first episode of the first season. Finally, we
great.
get that payoff.
He just shot him, and Andy was like, "Good job." I mean, nobody did anything. Nobody took the gun from her. Nobody said, "Wow."
It was just like, oh, Lucy took care of it. Let's move on.
Until the woodsman came.
yeah,
Yeah. So they did similarly as they did when Ray shot Mr. C. Their weird little dancey, smushy, blood wipey on facey dance.
Bob comes out.
Bob comes out, and he's a really pissed off bowling ball.
He is
he's a really mad bowling ball.
Mm-hmm.
a very unmoisturized bowling ball.
That's right.
I have a wait before we get into Bob and the boxing match. So would that place where Evil Coop went and was like sucked up and deposited in, but outside the sheriff's station, would it have taken everybody to the sheriff's station, or would it just take him at that time to the sheriff's station? Because why would there be like a porthole between the woods and the sheriff's station?
Wait, this is when Mr. C did this?
Yeah.
I feel like
would it have done it with anybody else?
No, I think it was just with him, and it was because they figured if they put him there, then he would get smacked in the face with the righteous green gardening glove of the fireman.
Yeah. Although Freddy's showdown actually turned out to be more with Bob than with Evil Cooper.
Right. But I mean, they were putting Evil Cooper and thus Bob in the place where he would ultimately be vulnerable, I guess, is my thought.
I'm sorry, Marc-Anthony, could you say that phrase again, please, for me?
Which phrase was that, Amanda?
The gardening glove?
The glorious green gardening glove of the fireman?
Yes, I like that. I like that. If we ever get in a band again?
Pile driver in there somewhere. It should be the glorious green pile driver garden glove of the fireman.
Of the fireman. If we ever start a band again, which I'm sure we will, because we're in our
we start
20s.
bands every few months.
Yes, that's what it's going to be called. Anyway. So, Bob comes out. He's a bowling ball. He's
flying around, screaming mad.
He's mad. He's like, and he's doing the pokey head thing to
It's doing the
little Freddy.
And he's screaming. He's like, rah! He's like an evil black Pac-Man ball that's like attacking everybody. It's like screaming and flying through the air. Rah! Do you remember Mad Balls? You remember Screaming Mimi and all those rubbery balls with scary faces?
Yes.
Mad Balls, yeah. That's what Bob became ultimately, a Mad Ball.
A Mad Ball.
Yeah, and everybody arrives in Frank's office during this period. Like,
yes,
Andy and Nido and Freddie and James come in. Hawk arrives on his own from some other place.
And Gordon Kohler is right on time.
Yeah, the FBI characters come in, and Good Cooper is there. And this entire sequence also has superimposed over it just a shot of Dale Cooper, just his face, looking concerned, watching, perhaps.
And everything is still going according to Agent Dale Cooper's plan. And Agent Dale Cooper knows every single thing that has happened. Not just every single thing that's happened to him, but every single thing that's happened. This whole series. There's something to keep in our minds as we go through.
He does oddly have to be told. This is Frank Truman, not Harry Truman.
True.
Which I was surprised because I felt it was significant. I thought that Mr. C didn't know that. And that was one of the things that made Frank suspicious of him. But I could have read it wrong. My only note for that bowling ball sequence was, wow, Bob, wow. Cooper puts the ring on Mr. C.
Right.
The ring returns to the Red Room.
Okay, at 2:47, he puts the ring on his finger. The clock reads 2:47. And I would just like to point that out for continuity's sake for Mr. Lynch, and would like to congratulate that fucking man, because just about, I would say in real time, it's like 2:53 when the next thing happens. It was amazing.
Right. That's right.
And it was, I looked at the clock, it said 2:47, and I said, if this is for real, in about 5 minutes, something amazing is going to happen.
Yeah. And Cooper asks for the 315 room key.
Right.
It says that Major Briggs said that Sheriff Truman would have it, which he does. Bobby shows up at this point, and Cole and Tammy and Albert show up. Cooper and Nido do this hand-to-hand thing, and Nido goes to the Red Room and is replaced in Frank's office by Diane.
Yeah.
Diane with red hair and a sort of a happier version of Diane.
A much softer face, and she's not all jaw to the side, and her nails are alternating black and white. They no longer have color on them.
No.
And she's dressed in a more simple manner. Yeah.
She's not wearing a kimono. She's wearing like a terry cloth robe.
Well, she's wearing the robe that Andy put Naito in, actually.
Yes.
That's what it is. But later on, she's seen in just a plain sweater. Yeah.
I mean, I suppose we are to assume that this is the real Diane.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're to assume.
Right. That was taken to the convenience store, and there, a tulpa was made.
And she was somehow hidden inside the vessel of Naito, which, as has been pointed out, is almost an acronym for Diane.
Almost. Just vexingly not quite.
Yeah. Do you remember everything? Yes. Now it is 2:53, and the big superimposed Cooper head says, in a very slowed down audio, "We live inside a dream."
With Coopers.
I mean, certainly it does seem to be at least suggesting, if not
telling,
strongly, screaming at us that Cooper is the dreamer in this whole.
He knows everything.
Cooper is also a cat.
When he thinks that we're talking about him.
Oh, good Cooper.
You're so good, Cooper. You're not a bad Cooper. You're good Cooper.
When he does bad things, he's called Mr. C.
Cooper, Diane, and Gordon go down into the furnace room.
Okay, I have to tell you, before they started doing this, when he goes back there and he says, okay, neither of you, like, they're walking and, like, it's all dark and everything. I was just sitting there, and I swear to God, everyone, that the top of my head, like, this chakra up here started just, like, tingling, and I was like, oh, something supernatural is going to happen. It's going to be amazing, and it's so explosive, and nothing like that happened. But I did have a little tingle on the top of my head, so that could be a rash, or I could have had some sort of chakra tingle.
Well, you might want to get that checked out in either case.
And then I did have a question that I asked Noah, and maybe I can look this up later, or somebody can look it up now. I wanted to know what the characters' names were on Invitation to Love, and see if there were, like, Billy and Tina.
There was Jade, Emerald.
That's right.
Oh.
What other? I'm forgetting the rest of their names, but
I remember Jade and Emerald because they were twins, and Emerald was the good twin.
My dearest Jade and Emerald, I'm leaving you the towers.
All right, never mind. It was just a theory, a quick theory.
Okay, so where were we here?
We're in the furnace room, and we hear the hum.
Right.
The 315 room key opens this door in the furnace room that we saw a kind of portentous shot of a few episodes ago when James went down.
When James was looking, through the furnaces.
And he heard the hum. Cooper says, "I'm going through this door. See you at the curtain call."
Yes.
Which for some reason set up an expectation in my mind that there'd be some kind of curtain call. Then we see that shot of Cooper walking in the dark that's been in every promo since the beginning of this series. It's like, oh, there's that shot. Then we see Philip Gerard, who recites the Fire Walk With Me incantation. I wondered if we would hear that ever in this series, and I kind of decided we wouldn't, but there it was. Then we get some walking in the woods, walking up the stairs that we've seen in Dutchman-type sequences already, and in Fire Walk With Me. We see an image of the jumping man, maybe with Sarah Palmer's face.
This is the same thing that Mr. C went through when he went to see Philip Jeffries.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And that's where we wind up. We meet the tea kettle.
We didn't see as much of the wallpaper, and I wasn't sure if it was there. Because last time the wallpaper was incredibly...
That's true. The wallpaper did seem more muted this time. I noticed that too. It was weird.
So that we would, because we saw it, and you had Noah went... like,
But with the tea kettle this time, I really liked how this Cooper was was much more kind of chummy and casual.
He walked right up to it.
Yeah, he's just like, "Hey, Philip, how's it going? It's me, Dale.
It's slippery in here."
Serious Stephen.
It tells him to be very specific because it's slippery in there.
Right.
Yes.
And the date, February 23rd, 1989, is invoked. That's the date Jeffries shows up in Philadelphia, right?
No, I think that's the day Laura was killed. The day that Jeffries shows up in Philadelphia, I think was the 19th or something like that. I could be wrong.
No, I think you're right, actually. He says, "I'll find it for you. This is where you'll find Judy." Did you ask me this? Then Jeffries makes the owl cave sign appear. He turns it into an 8. And then he flips the 8, which made me think of the spread in Frost's Secret History, that if you hold it up to a mirror, the books that have symmetrical numbers, 8, 11, and 1, wind up the titles. I didn't discover this, but it's all over the internet. The titles, the first words of the titles of the 3 books, numbered symmetrically, spell the phrase "fear the double." Anyway, just seeing that 8 flip around made me think, oh, maybe that's what Frost was getting at with that little mystery spread. The text of which specifically mentions something about holding a mirror up to ourselves. So that explains nothing at all. Jeffries says, "You can go in now," or maybe Phil Gerard says that. "You can go in now." He was told.
After this little dot moves around on the rotating 8.
Yes.
To apparently just the right position.
It made me think of in episode 1 or 2, Cooper being told by Laura in the Red Room, "You can go out now."
It made me think of those those little games that you got at the grocery store in the packages and they hung. You had to roll the balls into the little. That's what it's kind of what had to happen before. You went on into the other supernatural room.
Those games had little silver balls in them that were like.
Yeah, they
did. Do you have the seed? Do you have the seed?
So they can be used to make tulpas.
I don't.
So he goes back into Firewalk with Me.
He goes back into Firewalk with Me. I also, you guys, I just want to let you know, in case you were wondering, I do have the seed.
When does it?
I have the seed right here. If you need me to make another one, we can do it anytime. I'll just need a little hair.
When he says he'll know the unofficial version, Gordon will hear the unofficial version.
Yeah, what did that mean?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. Smart people.
I do not know. I need to watch again before I feel like I can comment.
And then that was before somebody said find Judy. Who said find Judy?
I think Jeffries says this is where you'll find Judy.
I thought somebody commanded him to find Judy. Maybe not. All right, go ahead. So they're back and
Mike or Philip Gerard, I guess is what we should be calling him. He says, "You can go in now." He says the word electricity. Then we see the ceiling fan in the Palmer house.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see some stuff from Firewalk with Me. We see Laura and James. We see Leland.
Mm-hmm.
Then we see Cooper, present day Cooper, in the woods, watching Laura and James carry out their scene in the woods.
Right. And now that scene where Laura, sees something in the woods and screams has always been there, and we never knew what she was reacting to, and now we know that she saw Agent Cooper. She saw a man in a suit staring at her.
Yeah, that was quite something. That was really remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
And Cooper kind of watches all that. Yeah, she screams. Also, I thought it was kind of vaguely significant that we've wondered if Donna was even going to be mentioned in the return. And in a way, she is mentioned here because Laura invokes her name Donna doesn't know. You don't know me. Donna doesn't even know who I really am, you know. So there was a mention of Donna, in addition to her voice being heard oddly when James performed at the Roadhouse.
Yes.
And the photograph of Laura and Donna maybe being visible in the Palmer home. So there was our Donna mention.
And she says, "Your Laura disappeared. It's just me now."
Yeah.
Just very interesting.
Yeah. Then she and Cooper confront each other. She says, "I've seen you in a dream."
Mm-hmm.
Cooper reaches out his hand, and we see Laura Palmer wrapped in plastic, washed up on the shore, and then she vanishes.
Mm-hmm.
It turns to color, and Cooper is leading Laura through the woods. She says, "Where are we going?" And he says, "We're going home." The Laura Palmer theme is playing on the soundtrack. It feels way too early for this to be happening, oddly. How do you think they did this, guys? It really looked like 2017 Kyle MacLachlan was leading 1991.
It was really spooky and unsettling, to be honest. I mean, to see Laura Palmer's face from that era interacting with that Cooper, and while her face was shown sparingly, possibly just for effect cost purposes, but also the effect of it worked really well. When the moonlight would hit her face, it was like, oh, whoa, die.
It was an example of a very convincing, digital effect.
Yeah.
Something that that keeps coming up, and that has been coming up, and it's going to come up again, is the idea of home, going home. And Dougie is constantly being taken home, and he says home, and Laura, where are we going? We're going home. It's a very strong pull here. And then at the end, he's taking Laura back home.
To see her mother, theoretically, yeah.
And then
there's constantly no home, or else it's not a real home.
Yeah. And then we see the pilot again. We see that shot of Josie from the very beginning. We see the Martells. Pete goes fishing.
I just want to say I called this, not this exact thing happening, but I did say we would somehow go back to the pilot in the final bit. So, and
it was just, they showed us the show as if there wasn't going to be a show, because
why? So instead, it's just fishing with Pete.
Fishing with Pete. Fishing with Pete. Fishing with Josie.
And at this point, it really feels like, okay, this is kind of what we thought might happen. We are undoing the original sin of Twin Peaks.
Mm-hmm.
Laura Palmer's death is undone. She does not wash up on the shore wrapped in plastic. And then we see the Palmer house. Inside the house.
We hear
an anguished kind of soundtrack, and Sarah takes a bottle and starts smashing the Laura Palmer photo with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so it seems like, at least, some of the episodes leading up to this, certainly with what happened in the Elk Bar, maybe Sarah Palmer was not entirely nice. Maybe. There might have been some bad things about or within Sarah Palmer.
I think so. I think
So now, like, this is really goofy, but I feel like if we saw the firemen see Judy creating Bob and all this awful stuff, and then is like, all right, now we're going to create Laura to counteract that. If Judy is inhabiting Sarah Palmer, then she hates Laura. Laura is her bane. Laura somehow is the thing that can overcome her.
Yeah. I was going to say something, and you totally made me forget it because you were making such an interesting point. Something about Sarah stabbing this picture, and she's so upset and angry.
Maybe it's the frog moth talking.
I don't know. Oh, it's the house. I think it's the house. Because, this in this other reality, Mrs. Chalfont, who is no good. This woman is no good for anybody. Sold the house. Yes. She's got Carmen Bosia coming out of her ears.
How can you tell? Please explain your in my mind,
she's
possible
scary,
prejudgment.
She's old. She looks like she was in something Wicked This Way Comes. She's creepy. She has this kid who's her grandson who makes pain and suffering appear in his hand.
Oh, you're talking about the Mrs. Chalfont from the trailer. Yeah. I thought you were talking about the one that was at Chalfont that was at the door in this new thing.
No, she said she's not Mrs. Chalfont. She said who
did we buy bought it from Mrs. Chalfont.
And they bought the house from Mrs. Chalfont.
She's Mrs. Tremont.
She's Mrs. Tremont.
Right. Okay.
So Mrs. Chalfont sold them the house, which means that it's just this house. Part of it's the house.
Yeah.
I think.
Back to Coop leading Laura through the woods. We hear that phonograph noise.
Right.
Yes, we hear that noise that you sent us, that we listen to over and over and over again. For
those of you watching, by the way, like I played around with that noise. I slowed it down. I
swear to God, I hear Amanda every.
I did all these. I tried slowing it down 3.53 times. Like I did all this stuff, and we could hear a voice, but we could never quite figure out what it was.
Agree. I heard Amanda as the first word almost immediately and every time. So I think.
Well, we all heard Amanda almost immediately and every time, and then you just have to kind of try and get that out of your head in case it's something else.
Which, of course, that's what you do, is you do what, affects you most. But this guy's clearly saying, Amanda, we're leaving now.
We're leaving now.
That's what he's saying. Amanda, we're leaving now. So we hear that noise.
Right.
Yeah, and Laura does her patented signature scream.
Mm-hmm.
And seems to vanish. The woods dissolves.
Long pan of the woods.
Yeah.
And Julie Cruz then sings
The World Spins.
The World Spins, which is always one of my favorites of hers. So that was nice to hear again. And to see her singing again. And it was fitting that she was, since she was the first singer we ever saw in the Roadhouse, she's, I guess not necessarily, yeah.
Okay, 2 points that Rebecca's made here that is very interesting. Diane's hair and nails are the color of the drapes and the chevron floor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Her apartment is too. When we saw Diane's apartment in Philadelphia, definitely black, white, and red is her color scheme.
And she also points out that Sarah does no damage at all to the photo of Laura itself.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
It seems almost indestructible, she says.
And that photo was not in the room the last time we saw this room.
It wasn't?
It wasn't shown anyhow.
Well, and I was uncertain as to when that scene was supposed to be taking place.
Yeah.
Was that supposed to be... Because also in her screams, we heard definitely, I think, source sounds from the scream she made when, in the original series, in the pilot, when she had heard of Laura's death via the phone with Leland, and she was just screaming, and you could hear her phone scream through the phone. I think that was part of that scream was added in.
Oh, interesting.
So I kind of felt like this was in the world where Laura, didn't get killed. And when I first heard all the screaming going on, you didn't see anything. I thought, oh, this is Bob freaking out that he doesn't get to kill Laura because that's what he thought he was going to do. But it ended up not being exactly the case.
It reminded me of Leland, dancing with the picture, and crying, and ultimately cutting himself. Well, and that's where episode 17 wraps up.
Yes.
An episode that took us, I think, from, we're heading toward the satisfying resolution we have not dared to hope for, to leaving us with a pretty unsettled feeling. Yeah.
Straight past that resolution.
Like, we missed it. We missed our exit.
Yes, 3 seconds of resolution before we get completely confused again. He starts a new show. Like, no, Dale, Everybody's here. Where are you going?
I have to say, like, as soon as, everything seemed to have kind of gotten to we're fairly neatly tied up, and now what? My heart just leapt. I was like, oh, here we go.
Well, I did look at my arm, and I was like, do we have anything to say about this show today? Because it's pretty wrapped up. No.
Well, I was thinking, oh, wait a minute. We haven't really dealt with Audrey yet. I'm sure the last episode is where we're going to deal with that.
And we surely did. I think we got all we need from that in that last episode, right?
I think
Absolutely.
so.
I mean, the arm mentioned her. Done.
Yes, that's right.
Done.
The arm, I noticed this evening, looks less like a brain on a tree. Even though I like the phrase brain tree.
Mm-hmm.
It looks more like a wad of chewing gum on a tree. Just a note.
Yes.
An aesthetic note for the designers out there.
A wad of chewing gum that's coming back in style.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, they never explained what that meant.
Yeah, that we found out what that was, right?
Hey, what did that mean? Anyway, I'm surprised they didn't address that. What is this gum you like's coming back in style? Well,
okay. And
part 18. What's that? Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to launch into part 18, the beginning of it, which
Sure.
shows us what I think we have to consider our last glimpse of Mr. C, who is in the red room. His chair is on fire. He has milky doppelganger eyes now.
Mm-hmm. Or evil eyes, yeah.
He took out those black contacts he's been wearing all through this series. Then he explodes, and we get the seed and the hair. That's it. The one-armed man makes another one, and then we kind of get what somebody in the comments mentioned a little while ago. And I think we were all thinking this too. We get sort of the only happy ending we wound up getting, which is a bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, fresh, new Dougie who's got the Cooper physique and the Cooper smile and everything.
A nicer model of Dougie.
And he says, home. Yeah. And that was the first time I actually had tears leave my eyes. I held out until that long. And when he went, home.
That was lovely. And it sort of brought truth to some earlier predictions, that either Cooper would sort of wind up with Janie E., although that's not quite what happened. And also that I predicted some Theses of Stone ago that Janie E. would appear in the last episode. And that was a prediction I abandoned after episode 16, thinking that was probably all we were going to. We said goodbye to them at the casino, but that was a nice scene.
There was no bunny suit.
There was no what?
No bunny suit.
Damn.
Yes, explain what you mean by that. That's true. There wasn't.
Naomi Watts let slip, it seemed, that there would be a bunny suit at some point while she was on a panel at Comic-Con, and she seemed very upset by the fact that she'd said it. And there's this whole thing about the bunny, and the bunny is about the bunny. It's not about the bunny. It is about the bunny. It's not about the bunny. And I just heard that, and I was like, oh, I should have made my last prediction that Dougie was going to show up in a bunny suit.
I guess she really was just talking about the Rabbits web series that wound up in.
Yeah, I just watched Inland Empire this weekend.
Right.
And was reminded, I think, a friend of mine, when it was showing at the Music Box Theater in Chicago, someone there asked, what did the rabbits mean? Why did you put the rabbits in this movie? And he said something akin to, I like rabbits. They seem happy.
If only he had been that upfront with us about the meaning of Twin Peaks.
So we enter into, how does this start?
We get a kind of replay of Cooper leading Laura through the woods.
Right. Same sound again.
Same thing. The phonograph, the scream, and
her dying.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go back to the Red Room scene that we saw in, I believe, episode 2. or maybe
Right.
one.
But it's slightly different.
Is it future or is it past?
Mm-hmm.
This time the arm asks, is it the story of the little girl who lived down the lane?
Well,
What story is that, Charlie?
yeah, what story is that, Charlie?
Am I going to have to end your story? What does that mean?
I mean, it really does make one wonder if something about the whole Audrey bit in the series was that there were arguments and creative differences between Lynch and Cheryl and Fenn, and that she was just kind of written out and just given this little side thing that was later not necessarily consequential. I mean, that's kind of what it seems like.
But wouldn't you, as David Lynch, oh my God, never mind. I can't believe I'm about to ask the question. Wouldn't you, as David Lynch, want to connect it somehow so it made sense to your audience?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand what's going on with it. It is.
All right. So then, is it the story of the little girl? He leaves.
Laura screams and flies away as before.
Mm-hmm.
And then as in episode 2, Cooper encounters Leland in the Red Room. Leland comes in to find Laura.
Mm-hmm.
And looks very, very sad.
I'd have to go back and look at that scene in the earlier episode, but I felt like this was the same scene but flipped, like that the camera was from the other angle before. But I could be remembering totally wrong.
I would believe that. We've seen a little bit of that already this season. I mean, at the when Cole and Tammy and Albert see the vortex in South Dakota, and Diane sees woodsman creeping around there. We see the same shot twice, the second time reversed.
Right. I would have to go back and check to make sure, but
yeah, that's interesting.
And now that Dale's got some kind of Black Lodge foo going on. He's walking down the halls and he's like, and then the curtains go.
Oh, that's right. And he emerges into Glastonbury Grove.
Right. So it seems like he can kind of control where he's going. It seems like he's like, all right, I'm taking care of this stuff. Now I'm gonna leap between worlds and fix some other things.
Yeah.
So that becomes a thing, though. Like, was it 25 years in the lodge that made him think I have to stop this? I have to change this. This is something I have to fix.
It almost, maybe I kind of got the impression that it was like he was trapped in the lodge for 25 years. Like for some reason Bob got a 25-year ticket. He could be gone, on this Earth visa for 25 years, and then he had to come back. And so it's like, sorry, Cooper, you've got to stay here until he's back. And so Cooper used that time to learn how to
But was that the time that during that time did he decide I have to stop this Laura Palmer thing? I have to go back in time and stop this. I mean, why that? Because it didn't ever seem to be a thing before to stop Laura from dying. Was it just the knowledge that he got in the lodge?
So. Yeah, somehow he learned that Laura's death was kind of like a pivotal something.
Maybe 25 years in the Black Lodge doesn't really feel like 25 years the way we think of the passage of time. But what I kind of decided in my mind was that maybe whatever this time in the lodge has been, Cooper has used it to be an FBI agent. He's investigated this dimension and learned how to master it and manipulate it. And that's why when he wakes up in episode 16, he seems so in command.
He's ready to go, right?
He knows where what cabinet his suit is in and which armpit Bushnell carries his gun under.
Yes.
He knows who everybody is.
Mm-hmm.
And
he knows that the Mitchell brothers have hearts of gold. He knows.
He knows that, and he has somehow collaborated with Diane and Jeffries, and Briggs to make the events of the return happen.
Right.
When he comes out of the Black Lodge or the Red Room anyhow, and he's in Glastonbury Grove. There's Diane waiting for him. Good
right,
Diane.
And they both want to confirm if the other is the real one.
Yeah, is it really you? Is it really you?
And apparently just saying yes is enough proof.
Yeah.
I mean, well, because what
evil, otherworldly creation, abomination thing. I just need you to say you're not.
Well, but they can't prove it because the otherworldly abominations seem to know everything that's going on.
Right.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What kind of birthmark do I have? And where is it? I don't have one.
Yeah, I was waiting for an answer there. Then Cooper and Diane are driving. He says...
I think this is the first time we've been shown the highway in the daytime, ever. In a Lynch anything.
Yeah, there was the episode where Mr. C was evading the Black Lodge and he was driving in the daytime.
And vomiting Garmin Bose.
Yeah.
Right.
But they are rare. It's rare to see a daytime highway.
You don't get to go, lost highway, lost highway.
Yeah.
Cooper says they arrive at a spot which he says is exactly 430 miles, which is, I guess, cashing the check that the fireman wrote in the first episode when he said, remember 430.
But 430 miles from where? In which direction
Just remember it, damn it. It'll come in handy later.
2 birds, 1 stone. Okay.
He gets out of the car and there's like a lot of electricity in the air. He gets back in the car. He says, this is definitely the place. Kiss me, because once we cross, it could all be different.
Yes.
Once we cross.
They keep driving and it becomes night. Mm-hmm. And now you can say lost highway.
Lost highway, lost highway.
Yes. They arrive at a motel. Cooper goes in. Another Diane comes out.
It's room 8, right? Oh, I'm sorry, we haven't got.
Not quite yet. They Diane comes out of like the main like front reception area of the.
But she looks
like she came out from behind like the pillar of the car.
Oh, I guess so. Yeah, you're right. Cooper went in the front door.
Right.
I don't think she came out from behind anything. I think she just went.
Oh, she was just there. But whatever the case, Diane notices Carport Diane
and was disturbed by it.
Right, but not disturbed enough to not go into the room with Cooper and have a very, very awkward sex scene.
Yeah, that was just so weird. Yeah, they go into room 7. Cooper says, "I need you to come
Jason
over
has
here."
also pointed out in our chat, it was a drawn-out sex scene, and
it was so awkward. And I wrote, I have become a prude, I guess. But also, this was an awkward sex scene. But I just said out, the first thing I said was, I don't need to see this. I don't need to see this. And then, I used to
personally, there was something incestuous about it, just because, like, to me, I really feel like Kyle MacLachlan and Laura Dern are, to me, sort of siblings, and having them play romantic interest doesn't necessarily bother me, but this kind of like weird twisted sex scene, that bugs me with them.
There was no chemistry. It was awful. And I used to watch like the Blue Velvet scenes over and over and over again, and Kyle MacLachlan, and I loved it. And then this happened, and I was like, just turn it off. Yep. Just make it stop. I can't do it.
It was not comfy.
Yeah, and it was also kind of strange. I was so surprised, like, that went into a sex scene. It made me think something's really wrong here, and I kind of thought maybe he was going to turn out to be Mr. C and not Cooper.
I felt that a couple times too.
Because it's almost like it should have been somehow. I thought maybe the narrative function of that scene, if he wasn't Mr. C, was going to be to kind of correct the sexual abuse that Mr. C, visited upon Diane. Now they're going to make love, and it's going to be beautiful, and it's going to erase the darkness of the rape that we heard about a couple.
It's like she had to do it. No. She had no choice. It was like she had to do it.
She's crying and covering his face.
Yeah, and the face covering thing was so strange, and his face.
Wait, just staring at her?
Expressions were almost absent. I mean, he was. It was a bizarre. But then, I think, this is in relation to how he's saying if we cross this line, basically things change. We're going to be different people.
During that sex scene, the song is the Platters singing "My Prayer." My prayer is to linger with you, which we last heard in part 8. That's what was playing on the radio that was interrupted by the Woodsman. Doing "This is the water and this is the well." And we sit through that entire song during this sex scene.
It is an interminable sex scene.
It's really rough. And that song.
And you can tell from the way that Cooper interacts with Annie and how just them dancing with one another is so sexy and passionate and amazing that, like, this is not the way that Cooper is in bed.
No, but it's clearly not that Cooper. I mean, the next thing that happens is this, she disappears, and it's this note. He's apparently Richard, and she's Linda.
Some nice comments in the chat from Rebecca Lehman saying that it was heartbreaking to watch Cooper lose his earnest do-gooder sparkle.
Agreed.
It did feel that way, like, okay, it's not Mr. C, but it's not right. And
yeah,
yes,
and Jason is saying it seemed like they were reenacting the rape, which is interesting, and yes, in an emotional way, but I mean, physically, definitely not. Diane seemed to be controlling the situation, though it did seem to be out of her control. But maybe it was a rape and he was controlling her. I don't know.
And yes, as you started to say, Marc-Anthony, he wakes up alone in the morning and he finds a breakup note to Richard from Linda.
Yeah.
And so that's the only time they say Richard and Linda. They're like, remember Richard and Linda. And that's it.
So
yeah, I mean, it was the fireman in the first scene after the credits in the very first episode. It was Richard and Linda, 2 birds with 1 stone. Remember 4:30.
Do we still think
Going
Richard?
backward.
So maybe Richard wasn't Richard Horn,
Yeah, maybe not.
or maybe he was. I guess those are the 2 possibilities.
Unless he's Richard now, because there had to be a Richard, and I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't think we know the answer here.
Yeah, we just have a whole lot of new questions right now. I mean,
right?
And
The
then
last hour was like a new season.
it really does. I mean, that's exactly what it feels like. Is here, is a whole new direction this can go that could give you another 18 episodes of wondering what's going on delightedly. That's being dangled in front of our faces, but if that doesn't happen, it's so upsetting and devastating.
Never gonna happen.
It's kind of like the ending of the first season and the second season.
Mm-hmm. It's how this show will always end, just like killing the goddamn island.
We're kind of fools for thinking it would be anything else, but oh boy, okay. Cooper comes out of the hotel, and it's a different hotel.
Yeah.
It's not the same one he went into. Now he's in Odessa, Texas, I believe.
Yes.
He drives to Judy's coffee shop, where he defends the waitress. Now here, I thought, okay, I don't think it is Mr. C, because he's got normal eyes. And he defends this waitress. He makes short work of these bullies who are harassing her. He assumes command of the place. Yeah.
Then and first of all, he does so in a way that I don't see our Dale doing. I can certainly see Dale, defending the waitress and maybe even roughing these guys up a bit. But the way that this happens is not a way that the Dale Cooper I know and love would have done it.
He liked it, and he liked being rough about it, and he kept the gun out and made everybody still uncomfortable.
He waved it around. He waved the gun around. And then he kind of bullied the waitress into giving him.
And the chef, and he's like, I don't know if it's hot enough to make these bullets go off, but I get out of the way. It's He doesn't even talk like Dale anymore.
No. So, like, I feel like if Dale is a rare steak and Mr. C is a really well done steak, this is kind of a medium well Dale.
You think maybe somehow, I mean, this is just whatever, but maybe like when he crossed that line at 4:30 and he says, it may not be the same after we cross, maybe he is now like his complete self, which is a fusion of Dale Cooper and Mr. C. Because he is kind of Mr. C, like the way he talks to the waitress. It is that kind of curt Mr. C voice combined with a little bit of Dale Cooper spirit.
Well, and I mean, I suppose you could argue that, this is the real Dale, and all of Twin Peaks has been him having a dream or fantasy about, what if I was really super perfect and did everything squeaky clean Boy Scout, or what if I was a super villain and did all the bad stuff. It's possible, but upsetting to think about that as a possibility.
Yeah. So now we have Cooper driving. We see power lines. We see the telephone pole with the number 6 on it, and I think a few different iterations. Yes, the girl in the Beatles t-shirt.
I just want to point out that I have written here, and it is absolutely true, and this is another reason that makes him not our Dale Cooper. His hair's so long, he looks like a fucking hippie.
What was that? You say that about...
His hair's so long, it looks like a fucking hippie. Cooper. It's really long.
In this sequence?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know.
But it's not Mr. C long. I mean, it's...
No, but it's like, it's longer than Dale.
The haircut. His grandma would not be happy with that.
Well, maybe
the
that's...
FBI would not be happy.
Maybe that's another indication. He's kind of both. He's Mr. C and he's Dale. I didn't notice the long hair, but I believe you.
I mean, it's not like long, but it's pretty. It's not. I don't know. Maybe it's because Kyle MacLachlan is older now and he needs to have longer hair to cover up certain spaces, but I don't think he's bald. Anyway, I wrote he looks like a hippie. I thought that was funny because I don't even remember writing it. But there we go.
He arrives at the address that he's been given for the other waitress. He expects Laura Palmer to answer the door.
He does.
But it's Cheryl Lee playing another character who we're told is named Carrie Page. I've been trained very well to immediately think, Carrie Page. She's carrying the missing page from the diary. Nope.
That would have been great, and maybe she is. We don't know. She probably was. He probably gave it to her and said, now listen, wait. You have to do this voice, but he said, now listen, carry this page in your pocket. And she became Carrie Page. And we'll never know it.
And he's disturbed. Something's not going according to plan. The name Laura Palmer doesn't mean anything to her. Your father was Leland Palmer. She does seem to sort of react to the name Sarah.
Right.
She has a white horse on the mantelpiece.
Yeah, she has a white horse on the mantle, and she also has a dead man with a head wound sitting on her couch.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Which I guess is why she says she's kind of got to get out of Dodge, and that's why she's willing to go along with this FBI man who she doesn't understand.
Which is, like another thing right out of Gilligan's Island.
Gilligan's Island and not Newhart does turn out to be rather the key here.
Surprise.
I wrote in my notes here, stick a fork in an outlet, Laura.
I wrote in my notes here, Puke Town.
Puke Town.
Mm-hmm.
But when I came back, I said, what did I miss? And Noah said, surprisingly, not a lot.
Yeah, Amanda went to review the show in the bathroom while that long scene took place of Cooper and Carrie Page / Laura Palmer driving at night for a long time. It looks for a while like someone is following them, and then it doesn't. They stop at a convenience store, gas station, but nothing is made of that either. It's not the convenience store. It's a modern Valero station or something. Yeah. And then they arrive in Twin Peaks.
And I've written Laura Palmer is in Twin Peaks, which is something that's really exciting to write down.
Yeah, but you know, even there, I kind of thought, oh, we'll go past the Welcome to Twin Peaks sign. Maybe we'll get the musical cue like in Fire Walk with Me, or even in episode 16 of this season. But no, they just go past the double R at night quietly, and that's how we know, oh, they've arrived in Twin Peaks. They get to the Palmer house.
And I think I write down that he's just going to spring this on Sarah, because if Sarah had been in that house, what the living hell are you thinking? This is not what Dale Cooper would do.
No.
This is not what anybody would do. This is not real life.
Well, I think you're probably right about that. I mean, that does seem to be what we're dealing with here. But if we leave that alone for a moment, if this is the culmination of a 25-year vision quest, as Albert called it on the old show, to undo the death of Laura Palmer, I think knocking on her mother's door in the middle of the night is something that Dale might do. This is not wait until
a little more excited about it.
Right.
You know, yeah, I think this clearly isn't the Dale we know.
I know.
So
they arrive at the Palmer house, which doesn't ring any bells for Ms. Carrie Page. A strange woman answers the door.
The woman, Ms. Tremont, keeps looking at Carrie Page. A lot, though. She keeps glancing over and looking at her a lot.
It's weird. I mean, something's weird. Either because it's a dream or because something's just weird. We never really see whoever she's talking to. She's giving Coop this kind of, I'm not telling you any more than I need to, hostile expression. She says her name is Alice Tremont, and she bought the house from Mrs. Chalfant. Checking 2 names off our list anyway of things we don't know if they're going to mention. Cooper finally doesn't have anything else to say, so he says goodnight. They walk slowly away from the house. He asks,
and I have written down on my piece of paper before it happens, my last note, Laura's scream. Because I knew it was going to happen. I knew it. I was just sitting there waiting and waiting. I was like, we have to hear that one more time from this woman. And we did, and it was the only satisfying thing that happened in the second hour for me. Maybe.
And yeah, in the chat, Jason McMahon is reminding us that the Chalfant and Tremont names come from Fire Walk with Me. Yes, and we've wondered if that aspect of the lore is going to be dealt with in the return.
This is the third time that we've had that Chalfant Tremont dichotomy thing going on, right? Because there was the time when Donna met the grandma and son at the trailer, and then later it was someone else living there, and then this also happened in Fire Walk with Me, and now this time it's another replacement with the Tremont.
The Chalfonts are bad news.
Yeah,
there's a whole other movie about them.
They're friends with dirty bearded men
in a room
with bad coffee.
Not able to figure out what is going on. But knowing something's wrong, Cooper asks Carrie Page, what year is this? Which reminds us of Philip Jeffries and his confusion about the year when he shows up in Philadelphia in Fire Walk with Me. We hear a distant call of Laura's name, which I think is the same call of Laura's name that we heard when Cole had his vision of Laura at the hotel. Laura screams. And then we go back to the Red Room where Laura whispers to Dale as the closing credits roll.
Just want to point out here that Jason agrees with me, and he calls Cooper's hair that big boy pompadour. Right. So
this really is, as we've said, I mean, it did seem like it was setting up for another season. I would love to see another season.
No.
I'm not counting on it.
No. I'm not counting on a movie either, and if it's another movie, it's going to be like about the Chalfonts or something.
Right, yeah. It'll be a sitcom about Jerry and Ben as kids.
Yeah, or like, the woodsman and how they like live in this one apartment in New York City, they're trying to make it big.
Frog months in Vegas.
Some things that were not really addressed at all that we expected to be addressed or that we're hoping would be addressed.
I wish I had a pen in here. I need a pen. I wish I had a list. I wish I'd made a list of this. Well, one thing, before we do this, I do want to point out that Noah and I had talked about some things we might want to cover today if we don't have enough to cover talking about this episode, which we probably do. But, well, what didn't we like about the whole series? And what didn't happen that we were sure was going to happen? There's some things that we were just sure were going to happen. Well, we were going to see, and it just never happened.
What I was sure was going to happen, or at least be addressed a little more than it was Annie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like we got really one mention of Annie in one scene. And considering that the whole cliffhanger last time around was how's Annie, and that's what we've wondered for 25 years is how is Annie? We still have no idea. And,
you know, you can't, I've always associated the Michael Jackson song Smooth Criminal with Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Because you can't separate those two. And now it's like, it has nothing to do with Twin Peaks. It's like Michael Jackson wasn't even thinking of Twin Peaks when he wrote it.
And I have always associated the Broadway musical Annie with Twin Peaks.
And now you can't.
The sun will not come out tomorrow.
No.
I think the return did not ever, am I wrong about this? It never acknowledged the name or existence of Wyndham Earle, which doesn't surprise us that much because we know that wasn't David Lynch's favorite part of all this. But in a way, I wonder if Annie got tossed out along with Wyndham Earle as like something we're just not going to deal with.
Well, then, you know, why bring her up at all then, if that's the case? You know, like, why mention her with you know, Laura's diary and all of that? She was, I think that Fire Walk With Me was very close to Lynch's heart, and she was a part of that. Why omit her? Or if you're going to omit her, why omit her? Why not omit her entirely? Why bring her up slightly? Why?
Yeah.
And Heather Graham, I think, has said that she wasn't even approached. Like, no one asked her. She would have loved to have done it, but no one asked her. So it seems like they didn't want to for some reason. And I could also, you know, I could see it if it was like, well, you know, that whole storyline was something that we just kind of had to fix at the end of the show. We didn't have passions about it, but you could think you could at least address it and then toss it aside a little better than that.
Yeah, that's definitely right. And it seems kind of, I mean, there's a lot of that. I mean, I guess one question we might talk about is like, how do we feel? How do we feel right now? I've really struggled, and I have felt for a while now that the finale of this series was either going to come away saying, oh my God, it's a masterpiece. It's so much more brilliant even than I ever hoped it could be. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life revisiting it, and maybe I will, and finding new things and unraveling things. Or the other distinct possibility, because I have spent some of this season feeling like some of the artfulness of how abstruse and ambiguous this series is, sometimes that makes it seem like it's great art. There are no easy answers. It's poetry. And sometimes it makes me feel like there's a sort of laziness on the part of the creators. Yeah, this is all really interesting. And I'll bet it was a hell of a lot easier than writing something that works, writing something that adds up. And like I said, I have felt that way about half the time. Some of these episodes of this season, I've come away thinking like, you know, I love this, but come on. If, you know, and we've talked about whether the 18 episode length was necessary. Should it have been done in 9? And over the last few episodes, I've kind of been feeling like, no, actually, it's an indulgent series. It has its own kind of pacing. It does challenge our patience sometimes, but that's how it has its unique and ineffable quality. And I wouldn't trade that for brisker storytelling or more conventional resolutions. And I feel right now, just having been through the finale once, of course, sort of caught between those two opinions. overwhelmed by the brilliance and mystery of it all. And I also do feel a little cheated and a little foolish for having expected to come away from this understanding more than I do now.
Yeah,
What do you think it is, though? What do you think happened? In a nutshell, what do you think this is? What do you think you just watched for, 18 weeks of your life?
I guess one answer to that question is we watched a very rare, if not unheard of, phenomenon of an artist, or really two artists, being given carte blanche to do whatever they want for 18 hours.
What story? What was the story that you just watched? What happened?
I mean, I don't know. I can't answer that in any more accurate detail than we have answered it over the course of all of our conversations.
Do you think this was Cooper's dream? Do you think this was someone's dream? Do you think that's why they keep telling us about dreaming and dreaming and dreaming? And Monica Bellucci, she's the one who finally says, who is the dreamer? And she seems to be kind of God to Gordon Cole, because she has these dreams about her where she's all prophetic or whatever.
Yeah, on some level, I think we have been told that it's a dream.
Is it his dream, or is it his time in the lodge?
I really don't think we're supposed to know that. I feel like the ambiguity is part of what's fun about it. So
yeah,
we could easily assume that it is Cooper's dream, or that the entire series is Cooper's dream, or that only parts of it are, or that just the things in the lodge are, or what have you. But it could also all be Gordon's dream. It could be our dream. It could be Monica Bellucci's dream. We don't know.
The original... Please.
No.
I was going to say the original series, which is also deeply flawed. At least half the episodes of the original 2 seasons are various degrees of disposable to the main story and what we love about it. Nevertheless, the original series had a warmth to it, a real warmth. Even to the point where, as we know, Lynch didn't want there to be any blue props because even the color palette was warm. The Return is very cold, even in all its brilliance and all that we love about it. And I don't know. It may be one of the best things I've ever seen. I really don't know. I haven't decided yet. But one thing it is cold. And that coldness has contributed to its mood and to all the things that make its mystery compelling. But it has also cost us a lot in some of what we loved about the old show. And I think since we did spend so much time this season on deliberately frustrating pacing, on long, endless, let's say pointless takes, I do feel a little bit like, well, couldn't we have spent some of that time getting to know a character like Becky, who we instinctively care about, but we never really got to know her. She might be,
and we still don't know exactly what happened to her.
We don't know what the hell any of that was about. And I don't know. And there is a part of me that feels like there is a sort of lazy writing quality to it. Like, yeah, this is all very clever, maybe too clever. There is a part of me that says, come on, guys, I understand how hard it is to write, but that's what you have to do. You create characters and you owe us some reason for their existence.
I don't know. I don't think I can really agree with your argument that just because things don't line up means that it's lazy writing.
I don't mean that it's lazy writing because it doesn't add up. And I would rather...
The characters aren't fleshed out as much as they were in the original series? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, some of them. I mean, some of them didn't have to be. But there's an obligatory quality about almost everything that directly deals with the drama of the original series. Our hearts warmed and our eyes filled up with tears when Ed and Norma got together, but that's because of everything the old series did for us about Ed and Norma. Here, it was just like, and here you go. Here's these two characters you love. Now they're together. They kiss. It all happened in about 5 minutes.
But it was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
Beautiful.
I loved it.
And like, I feel like retreading that territory, there's no need. Like, I just watched the original series. I know everything that's built up to this. So all I needed was that.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll
go along with that.
We were all so excited when we saw the real Dale Cooper, the I am the FBI. We saw so little of him. We got to enjoy him for so little time before we were incredibly stressed out because he was on his way to meet Evil Coop. And he was screaming and he wasn't acting like himself. And we're going to have to get all of our enjoyment that we've gotten out of that gif all week of him going, I am the FBI. I am the FBI. And that's going to be it. That's what we're going to have to hang on to. That's all. We didn't know that then. But now we do. We're not going to have that ever again. He was gone so fast. He gave it to us, but not very much of it.
No, that's true.
And we'd been watching for so long for that. And every episode, we're like, next episode, Dale's waking up. He's waking up next episode. And then we're like, maybe he'll never wake up. Oh, my God, what if he doesn't wake up? So when he did, we were like, oh, yes, of course, for the final 2 episodes, for the finale, he's got to be Dale.
Right.
And then
we got 2 minutes of Dale, and then we got really weird, ambiguous Dale for an episode.
Yeah, this guy who, like, you know.
Or is it Richard?
Odd Richard, sexual necrophiliac proclivities. I don't know exactly what's going on.
All those roadhouse scenes, you know, endless noise and ambiguous scenes that just kind of dribble out into musical performances.
Yes. It's my favorite.
But, you know, I mean, like we say, we've spent the past week rewatching the whole season up to here. I mean, all the way, I've been thinking, like, this is good. I've also had the thought, like, assuming this does end on a note that makes me think that was a masterpiece and I love it, which may or may not be my conclusion. I thought, like, this is an unrecommendable series. Like, if you talk to somebody who wasn't familiar with the original series or Fire Walk with Me, and they said, "Oh, how is the new Twin Peaks? Should I check that out?"
Yeah,
like, well, I don't know. You gotta watch an entire original series,
which is fairly dated in a lot of ways. I mean, it
dated in a lot of ways. And
there are some ways it's still beautiful and fantastic, but I mean, if you've never seen it and don't have any nostalgia attached to it, and you started watching it now, the impact would be less, I imagine.
Yeah, and I think somewhere in the second season it would lose you. It would lose almost anyone's attention. You gotta watch Fire Walk with Me.
I love the second season much better than the first.
Okay, every minute of it though, all of it.
I mean, every time little Nikki is on the screen, I am just right.
Okay, I mean, I admire your whatever that is. I really do, and there are things that I feel that way about. But to be completely honest, I don't think I've even seen every second of every episode in the deep.
I would like to. I would like to bring this up and get your take on it. Jason has said they turned one of the scariest villains on TV into a bowling ball that gets hit by a British guy with a gardening glove.
Yes.
Let's react to that for a second.
Okay, I believe that was meant as an insult, and to say shame on them for doing that. I think that's fucking great. I think it's hilarious to take something that has been so frightening and bring it to such a cartoonish yet still odd and vigorous end. I loved it.
Well, all the destruction except for the destruction of Richard Horne has been cartoonish.
Yeah, pretty much.
All the soul sucking and the seed creation and all that. It's been very 1980s special effects.
Mm-hmm.
These are Mad Balls, which I mentioned earlier, a popular toy from the 1980s that you have just mentioned. That's what Bob turned out to be, a Mad Ball.
I really want a Bob Mad Ball now.
Oh, you're going to get one.
better.
Great.
Yeah, in a way, it seemed. I mean, I didn't mind that confrontation, and I thought it was cool that Cooper was saying all through that, "Are you Freddy?" Like he knows somebody named Freddy is the instrument of justice here. But I did kind of think, in a way, Bob's role as the kind of master villain here has been obscured a little bit. And by the time Bob is finally dispatched, it did feel a little bit obligatory. And we've gotten so confused, and it's gotten so raveled up about like what's a doppelganger, what's a tulpa, what's being possessed by Bob versus being an evil doppelganger. That like by the time we finally saw what I suppose we'd have to call Bob's death or ultimate defeat, it didn't feel. I don't know. I didn't think of Bob's victims and justice for Laura and Maddie and everything. I just thought like, oh, that was interesting. Freddy punched a mad ball.
Right. I don't know.
That did confirm that Bob was still there, though.
That did confirm that Bob was still there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he exited Cooper differently than the last time. I guess were the woodsman holding him in before, or was it this time he knew that it was a reckoning time? I don't know.
Yeah. Here's a question for you guys. What do you think Evil Cooper, if he hadn't been intercepted by all the good guys in Frank's office, how did Mr. C want that scene to go? Is he about to just kill everybody? What was Mr. C after? What did he want?
Well, I mean, he said that in an early episode, he said that what he wanted was whatever was on that playing card that he showed Daria.
Right. The mother, the experiment.
And I think we've kind of assumed that was the mother, which, whoa. So sorry.
Was that the mother?
Was that on your side,
Yes,
Mark?
it was. No, it's just something in the kitchen. So I think that somehow he was trying to reunite with the mother in some way, which also reminds me of when Mr. C got the phone call that he thought was from Philip Jeffries, but it wasn't. And he's like, is this Philip Jeffries? No, it's not. You're going back in tomorrow, and I will be with Bob again. Who was that?
Who indeed?
What happened when Hawk went into the Black Lodge in like episode 2 or 3 or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah. When Mr. C met Jeffries in tea kettle form, he said, "Did you call me 5 days ago?" But that call in the hotel room with Daria, Mr. C makes that call.
Which call are you talking about?
The one you're talking about, where he says, "You're going back to the lodge, and I'll be with Bob." We don't.
Mr. C makes that call. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that's not the call, I guess, that he's referring to.
I mean, you're right, Marc-Anthony, when we were talking about this the other day, that somebody's going to put this all together chronologically.
I'd be curious to see, how someone.
Some of it's moving backwards, some of it's moving fast, some of it's moving slow, some of it's at a different time. Mm-hmm. Some scenes are being smushed in between other scenes, like the baseball hitting Coop in the face when he's been out all night. And like today when I realized that Diane's wearing the exact same outfit when she's looking at the photograph of the arm with the coordinates on it in that guy's office. And then she's wearing that outfit later after the Let's Rock conversation.
Where she's got the pink thing or the red, yeah.
She's wearing the red thing in that one, and then she's wearing this green thing with the earrings again later that night in the bar when she's texting with Coop. Or no, not texting with Coop. She's looking up the coordinates. And the bracelets are off of her arm, and she's acting of her own free volition. She's looking stuff up for herself. I think Noah's going to pee.
All right.
Say that.
Pee, Noah Diamond, pee like the wind.
But yeah, so none of this hasn't happened in order.
No,
So
no.
that happened. So she got deputized before they went and saw all the dead bodies and stuff, which makes sense.
Right, why she would be
They
allowed
let
to
her go.
Right. By the way, I still like watching the show again. I just love that scene with Gordon and Tammy and Diane smoking outside of the morgue.
It's amazing.
And it's just because you can watch that scene 3 times and just focus on one of them and get a great scene out of it.
The way David Lynch just looks at people, the way he uses his silence is really, I mean, and he does it a lot, so you get to see it a lot. But the way he sits there silently and stares at somebody and looks and like just holds their eye contact and then looks down and looks up, and it's just amazing.
It is. It's delightful.
And the way after they shoot Laura Dern and she goes disappearing into the wall, they cut to Gordon and he's like, and he's just sitting there staring. He's just staring up in his face like this. It's like, it's amazing. Gordon just looks. And
I'm so happy that we got so much more of Gordon. I mean, Gordon basically is kind of the Cooper of this season in a lot of ways. He's our protagonist FBI guy.
Do Gordon, Noah.
You remind me today, Amanda, of a small Mexican chihuahua.
That's what I live with. That's what I've been living with for the past many weeks. It's good though. I like it. I like it.
Lucky.
Well, certainly, if we wanted to talk about some of the things we loved about The Return, and there were many.
Right.
David Lynch's performance for me goes high on that list.
It really was. I mean, his best moments on film, I think, were playing Gordon Cole in this series. He's hilarious. His comic timing is absurd and still dead on. It's a delicious character. I love Gordon Cole.
He also makes you love him. He kind of makes you love David Lynch, which is perhaps helpful as we've made our way through some of the
yes.
some of the naughtier sections of this season. There was this constant on-screen reminder that we do feel good in this guy's hands, you know.
Mm-hmm. That he is kind of like the hardware store owner down the block, your uncle's friend. It's a sweetheart, yeah.
Right, as we talked about in a previous Faces of Stone chat, that, you know, Lynch is the mysterious master auteur behind the scenes, but on camera he's Gramps, the lovable comical character. And yeah, that was very effective. And
I've liked a lot of performances in this, though. I mean, I think that Laura Dern was just amazing in her role as Diane, who was someone we had a lot of expectations about. Even before we knew that she was going to be a character, Diane was someone we had thought about forever. And to bring that to life in such a way that was complicated and creepy and hilarious. I mean, there was a lot going on with Diane.
Do we think it's going to be hard to go back and watch the original series, and when he starts saying, Diane, I'm da-da-da, you know, is it gonna be difficult? Is it gonna be hard to enjoy that?
To a certain extent, although I mean, I think that we kind of, you know, now can imagine it's the redheaded Diane he's talking to, not the blonde Diane.
not the platinum tulpa.
Right.
That too, I mean, that's something that we that was sort of explained but not explained. I think that sums up a lot of the lore elements here. A lot of explanations, but
not too much.
Why does Sarah's face come off?
The whole Sarah thing, yeah.
Yeah, there's still a lot to pick apart there.
I mean, that's not tulpa behavior. That's
no. And the only time we saw someone do that was Laura when she was in the lodge. So
Toward the very end, when Cooper says, "What year is this?" It seems okay. Maybe he's thinking we somehow overshot the time that we were supposed to return, and now it's actually far in the future, and Sarah Palmer is dead, and
right. There have been new Chalfonts and Tremonts, you know.
Chalfont is, that name makes me nuts.
Does it?
Yes, I have a problem with names and things like that, like Chalmers and Chalfont.
You do, yeah. That's very Siskian.
Chalfont.
So
Really?
the Chalfonts and the Tremonts in the original series and Fire Walk with Me, they are sort of malicious guardians of Laura's portal to Lodgy darkness.
Yeah, they seem to kind of be, you know, like tempting spirits that are trying to bring Laura into the darkness. But are also willing to talk to Donna, who's investigating Laura's murder. That's okay. You can give her some info and some cream corn magic.
But she might bring Cream Corn Magic. No, that's the name of our band. That's it, Cream Corn Magic.
Cream corn magic?
Mm-hmm. What else do we think should have been answered? Is there anything we think should have been answered? Not that we thought would be answered, but what the fuck, you really didn't answer this?
Well, I mean, aside from the Audrey thing, which...
Okay, yes.
You know, I think was a bit of a dick slap. I really think we were kind of dick slapped with Audrey.
Yeah. I know that there has been some talk that offstage tension with Sherilyn Fenn was partially responsible for the way that worked out. But I think that's one of the greatest disappointments, I would say.
Agreed. And I mean, you know, like, I feel like I really did enjoy a lot of the things that were going on with Audrey. And the Audrey Charlie mystery was something that, while vexing, was also really fascinating. And the fact that it just wasn't really, it was barely addressed in the finale, is just annoying.
We don't know any more than we did before. Is she dead? Is she in a coma? Is it a dream?
Other than the fact that the arm commented on her obliquely.
Right. We got to see her do the dance. That was kind of Audrey's thing.
And that was really nice. I mean, I thought that was a really beautiful moment, and it was surreal, and it harkened back, and I liked that dance of hers better than her original dance in the show. I dug it. So, yeah, I really felt that the Audrey thing was my biggest disappointment in the series.
Yeah, it felt really. It also, I think, because we waited so long to see Audrey, you know, I think Audrey's absence from, and later her perplexing presence in the series, became a kind of, it became an encapsulation of the way the fans have felt treated by this series. And, like, you know, there was that meme going around that it was a meme of David Lynch. He of course didn't really say this, but of Lynch saying, like, every time you guys, you know, post another crackpot theory on the internet, I cut another Audrey scene.
Yeah.
You know, like, Audrey was the fan bait, and of course she was a fan favorite, and she embodied so much of she embodied a great deal of what was beloved about the original show and missing from the return.
And
for better or worse.
We thought she would be the Twin Peaks ambassador. And it turned out to be Ben Horn, which was weird.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was the one that really tied us back to Twin Peaks, and it really had nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
All of this fucking shit with Beverly. Like, okay, humming. What's the humming?
We still, really have no satisfactory answer.
Other places where it's happening, people go there and they do something and something happens. Or, like, you know, Coop comes out of his coma. Or Coop goes and finds Jeffries.
There was also Beverly's husband. We never saw or heard anything about him again.
Yeah, that was a little throwaway scene that wound up.
What was his name?
Tom?
I think.
Tom, don't fuck this up, Tom.
Yeah.
Tom's like
I mean, that's what
half dead. Chill out, Beverly.
And why did we spend the time on that if you were going to go to all that trouble? I mean, really, from a practical point of view, that's a scene, that's a set, that's an actor, that's a whole situation. Why
How many lines did he have?
Why couldn't we have learned something about Shelley and Bobby's marriage? Why couldn't we have learned something about Becky? Why, why?
What about this Red guy? This drug shit.
Yeah. So many more about Red. All we know is that Shelley still has dangerous, questionable taste in men.
Yeah.
And
that's all
there is now a leaderless arm wrestling cult running around.
Yes, that's right, with the arm wrestling cult.
Rebecca's pointing out Beverly Page, Carrie Page. Are these related?
Oh, is Beverly's name Page?
It was it? I didn't know that.
That would be really interesting. And at this point,
not entirely illuminating, but still a thing.
I mean, that is kind of going to be the question now. Are there answers embedded in these 18 episodes that we just haven't stumbled upon yet?
Well, and I would imagine that there are. I would imagine that if we watch it several more times, we would pick up on little threads that tie together in other ways, but we're still not going to have any of the larger answers, I think, that we appear to be missing.
A few things that people are talking about. The vomiting girl in the car, the sick girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? It never got brought back, this whole sick.
And was she related to the drunk guy in any way? They both kind of seem to have the blah, blah, blah.
And then I hated how they made Audrey and Diane these one-note shrill woman characters. They kept repeating that trope, Jason. Yes, they did, and we talked about that with Audrey too. That's all she did. And Frank's wife, who just came in and screamed, and it was just, like, even, yes, and you're right, even the Diane before the Tulpa Diane was just fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. She wasn't like screaming and like a banshee, but she was,
just
that's right.
A bitch.
I think we have
just
to conclude
pause for 1 second. Stephanie, who's been with us through a lot of our episodes, is saying that she couldn't watch tonight, and so she's sad to miss out on the live discussion. So hopefully you can, tune in and hear what we have to say after you get a chance to watch. But it's something, so give it a shot.
Yeah, thanks for watching, Stephanie Schenkel.
Appreciate you being with us this whole time. I also really love Naomi Watts.
Mm-hmm.
Her whole thing with the terrible cars will be with me forever. I just love it.
Terrible cars.
Terrible cars. They're always
You're
in
the 99%.
Janie E. was a character. I mean, Naomi Watts or Lynch and Frost, they figured out a way to make her a compelling character, even when shrill and upset, which she was a lot. But I think despite that, for me, I think I have to conclude that ultimately the return did not deal with the problem as much as I was hoping it would, of how the female characters in Twin Peaks often seem to be there as to be abused and murdered and to yell at men.
Oh, if anything, it exacerbated that problem. I mean, it didn't really seem to rectify
and
that.
Even the new Laura Palmer at the end, the Cheryl Lee character from Texas, who may or may not be Laura in some form. I was like, oh, great, here's Cheryl Lee, but it's actually another new character who's just in a pissy mood all the time.
Yes. So did we? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking too about how, the idea, all the rape of Audrey, the rape of Diane. We've had, of course, the idea that Bob is a sexual predator by nature, and that those possessed by Bob, that's what they do. That's been part of this story for a long time. But I don't know. Even that, it feels like so much of the pain of this season felt like it was for its own sake. Why did we have to watch Richard Horne be so absolutely cruel and horrible to so many people just to see him get zapped on a rock in another ambiguous scene?
That was something I said was he didn't have to kill that little boy. We didn't have to watch.
No, I really enjoyed watching Richard Horne get fried.
I enjoyed watching him get fried, but I still felt like
but
the time
we
we
didn't
spent
have to
with
watch.
that. Yeah, the time we spent with that character was spent entirely watching him be like unspeakably cruel and horrible to everybody he encountered, including his grandmother and innocent young girls in the roadhouse, you know. And yes, when he hits the little boy with the truck, that was a horrible thing to go through and watch. And when Lynch and Frost put us through that kind of trauma in the early episodes of the original Twin Peaks, that was the very heart of the show. That's what it was about. And so there was a reason to go through that pain. You had to, in order to appreciate what was beautiful about the show. I don't think we can say that about all the pain this season.
I would like to go back a little bit to the women thing and mention Tammy Preston, who we haven't talked about.
Mm-hmm.
You could say, oh, well, they put this woman FBI agent right in the middle of it. First of all, they talk about how smart Tammy is, but you never see it. She never figures anything out and solves things. You never see why she's an asset along the way. Really, I don't think. Somebody can probably correct me on this, but I don't think you see why she's an asset, except that she brings Gordon cold coffee twice. And that really bothered me.
Yeah. She did feel like under...
I don't know. I mean,
she's a fucking rockabilly pinup girl.
The fingerprints. I think there are a few moments here and there where it kind of, you know, they talk about they've watched her since she was
right. But you don't see her. You don't see the fingerprints. Right. Yeah. The fingerprints. You're right. But you don't see her doing anything except handing Gordon the phone, getting Gordon his coffee.
She interrogates Hastings in prison and does a good job
with
that. But I still think your point stands. I think your point is true. Tammy
and she is, like I said before, I'm not sure if anybody heard this, but she's a rockabilly pinup girl. You know, like
Ray. Ray Monroe is also kind of a rockabilly pinup girl.
Mm-hmm.
He absolutely is, except he's Jerry Lee Lewis. But
I think Tammy Preston was another kind of missed opportunity. Like, yeah, an awful lot of screen time, but she could have been the Dale Cooper of this series. And certainly Mark Frost's Secret History seems to set her up as the principal investigator.
Right.
I guess opinions about Krista Bell's performance as Tammy have been quite mixed. I went from not really knowing what to think of her to kind of liking her performance and just wishing she had been better served by the script sometimes.
Yeah, I had the same reaction. I wasn't sure what to think of her at first, but she really grew on me.
Yeah, me too.
Well,
what do you guys think is going to happen on the next Twin Peaks? How about this? Do you guys feel right now, what is your feeling about, living with this from here on? You know, the original show, you have both been fans of Twin Peaks for much longer than I have.
I will be absolutely fine. I will be fine.
Will you rewatch it in the future, do you think? Will you return to it? Will it continue to? Yeah. I'm
sure I will. I'm not going to sit around and try to figure it out. I'm not going to read people's ideas of how to figure it out. I'm sure you'll tell me things. We'll talk about it. I lived through this once. I lived through Lost. I lived through this again. It's great. I had a good time watching it. I'm just disappointed that my last feelings of Kyle MacLachlan are awkward and negative ones. I didn't feel like I trusted him for the first time ever. I didn't feel like I trusted Special Agent Dale Cooper.
You know, I feel a little bit like it feels a little foolish to say like, oh, well, I wanted a happy ending and I wanted a neat resolution. I mean, I don't want that to be my reaction to this. I want to be somebody who likes the ambiguity of great art, you know. And I'm not actually a big TV watcher. I mean, it's not that I need this to be neat the way most TV shows are. I couldn't even tell you how most crime dramas wind up. You know, so it's really not that. But I part of my initial response to the finale is, I have to admit, a feeling of like, oh, come on. Like, why couldn't you have just made us feel better? A little better than we feel. Especially because it seemed to be doing that, revisiting the pilot and seeing Cooper leading Laura out of the woods and seeing Pete Martell go fishing with no event.
Right.
You know, it was like, oh, we were there. Why not? Why not just end it with a big happy musical number?
And then a curtain call.
And a curtain call. You know, I was interested to see how little Julie Cruz appeared. I mean, it was nice to see her at the end of episode 17 singing, but she didn't even get like a real Roadhouse scene for her performance.
No, it wasn't even the full song, really. It was...
Yeah. And it made me think, Amanda and I were talking yesterday about, for me, on the list of things about the return that didn't really work for me, the Roadhouse musical performances go on that list. Not that I disliked every song or every artist, but it just felt extra. It felt like filler. It felt like every episode, even the ones that had real momentum to them, then they just dribbled out into like meaningless conversation and a song in the Roadhouse. Whereas in the original series, when Julie Cruz sang at the Roadhouse, it was like ladled over the story like gravy. And it was underscoring very meaningful scenes between the characters. And we had things like Donna singing along with Rocket Back Inside My Heart. You know, you got the sense that this is the music in these characters' lives. And that's why it's important. And now it's just kind of like David Lynch decided he would also have a talent show.
I hear what you're saying, but I really liked almost all of the performances. The only one I really didn't care for was Eddie Vedder. Sorry, I'm not.
You liked James? You like James?
I thought that was hilarious. It was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, the James one was like one of the few that did feel important.
But you can't say you like it and you don't like the Eddie Vedder one. I mean, you can.
Yeah, I can say that. I am saying that.
You just did.
Yeah, I said that. That's the thing.
I will judge you. But
I may be an outlier.
I will still love
you. Judge away.
For me, for me, the Nine Inch Nails were the single most difficult and painful part of this whole season. And I will probably rewatch the whole season. I don't think I'll ever sit through the Nine Inch Nails song again.
I love that song to a CD and play it over and over again when I'm driving. So
I love the Nine Inch Nails, and that was really difficult for me.
Some of the songs, the Au revoir Simone song really stayed in my head, and the first Chromatic song I like. I mean, this isn't about I don't like the music, although in some cases I do.
No, you're more upset about the way that it's used as a device or not used as a device in the.
A little. The James one did feel meaningful, although it's a love-hate thing, I guess. But yeah, that's an aspect of it that feels undercooked to me.
I think the one that really struck me as the most meaningful and that tied everything together the most was when he played ZZ Top on the playlist.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
Every girl's crazy about a sharp-dressed man. And that's really all you need to know about Twin Peaks.
Coming up next on the Roadhouse playlist.
We're very excited.
It's not even serious radio. We have our own playlist.
And they also have a cardboard, and they can turn up the volume with.
Hey, ZZ Top, they kind of look like Woodsman.
We should wonder about that for our next. Maybe they'll bring that back.
Dirty bearded men singing about legs.
Well, we don't have. I mean, we could do a Theses of Stone.
We could talk about the predictions we made a week ago.
Let's see what our predictions were. I forget what we predicted last week.
Theses of Stone, the final Theses of Stone, at least of this series of discussions. Last week on Theses of Stone, Amanda Sisk predicted that Cooper would end up with Audrey.
Aww.
Did not happen.
Boy, I was a naive, stupid person.
Aren't you glad you're not that person now?
What?
Aren't you glad you're not that person now? That was yesterday. That was last week you that thought that stupid shit.
You have no idea what I've been through in the past week, okay? You really have no idea.
Well,
gained a lot of wisdom and weight.
We are well matched in naivete and stupidity, if you insist, because I also predicted that Audrey and Cooper would wind up together. That's the way it felt to me at the end of episode 16. I also predicted Laura Palmer lives, which is
arguably true, arguably correct, I guess. There seems to be maybe an incarnation of Laura that's alive.
It might be a little bit true, but it's also hardly an original prediction of mine, so I'm not gonna take too much credit for it.
I did say, let me break in here. I thought that Bobby was going to have more to do with Laura's life, but really it was about Bobby being able to, what am I trying to say? To understand that his father knew that he was going to be a good man. And
that's more about his relationship with his dad. And
once that was wrapped up nicely, then we were able to put Bobby over to the left and have Andy do something.
Right.
But that was nice. That was nice, even if we didn't get to see anything with the floating head of Garland Briggs. His giant floating head.
Wonder if we can get a projector just so that we too can have the giant floating head of Garland Briggs on our walls.
I think it's got to be a cardboard cutout, just hanging right in the middle of the room, because that's what it looked like. Anyway, okay, I'm sorry. Theses of Stone.
And finally, Marc-Anthony predicted last week that in the finale, Mr. C and Dale Cooper would sit down at Winky's from Mulholland Drive and have a root beer float.
I'm going to say that I was correct about that. It's just that they sat down at Judy's and they were one person.
I think you are 430% correct.
All right.
So, what's your prediction for
next week on
the rest of our lives?
DuckTales. Woo!
Don't get me started.
I was joking about Growing Pains the other day, but I think it would be a great one to recap.
We should do Growing Pains viewing. So for those of you watching, by the way, so now that Twin Peaks is over, at least for now and ostensibly forever, we would like to keep talking to you about other things. So we're thinking about maybe doing some David Lynch films next, or finding another show or topics we can talk about. So give us some suggestions in the comments on this video. And also, before we forget, please like the video and follow us. We're going to be coming to you with lots of stuff eventually.
And we may as well tell you now, I don't think we're quite wrapping up yet, but we might as well mention that if you're looking for us, Faces of Stone is on Facebook at twinpeaks.facesofstone. On Twitter, Marc-Anthony Macon is at @M_A_Macon. Amanda is at President of Sisk, and I am at Noah Diamond. And yes, one way or another, we will keep our conversations going. And I'll say that, you guys, I mean, one thing, among the things I have enjoyed the most about Twin Peaks: The Return is this trio of old friends discussing it every week. It's been really a pleasure, you guys.
It has. It's been lots of fun. And, you know, it's takes something this strange and wonderful to give us that kind of opportunity. But, you know, like, we can't resist talking about it. We have to do this.
having
I just
fun.
got so excited I pulled my earphones right out. One thing about I was just thinking about the finale and the way it worked out is at the moment it feels so foolish, not just because there are no episodes left, but a lot of the things that we might normally put on our list of unanswered questions. It seems like, like one thing that just flashed through my head when we were talking about Major Briggs and his giant floating head is, oh yeah, well, what happened to the actual head of his body, and why was Dougie's ring in his stomach?
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, it's a little late for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the entire last hour was an entirely new adventure.
Yeah. Completely new.
With characters we do not know.
Yes. They look a bit like characters we've known, but
Yeah, but their names are even different.
I haven't known anyone that does the cover your face when we're having sex thing.
It's Richard and Linda. We don't know them.
No. We know nothing about Richard and Linda.
And it really has been a whole season of just like names. Like but it works because we walk around for a week going, who's Judy? Who's Tina? Ida? Who's Tina? So, I don't know.
The classic trick that Lynch and Frost do is just mention something twice and suddenly it's fascinating. Like we were in, the bubblegum thing earlier, that gum you like is going to come back in style. And we wondered for a year, like a year what that means. And it's just like, the waiter mentions it again. He just says that. He just repeats that line later.
And the thing is, it's like that whole line was to set up the idea that, that was used to tell us that this was coming.
Right.
And they started saying that gum you like is going to come back in style. You're like, that's all you used it for. You're like exploiting yourself to exploit us, to manipulate us. I feel manipulated, but I also feel like I opened my heart and I said, manipulate me because I really like it when you do it.
Mm-hmm.
I get pissed off, but I really ultimately must enjoy it because I ask you to do it to me.
Well, and I think that's one of the reasons that this show is like no other, is that it pushes buttons that even if they're uncomfortable or annoying, we don't get pushed very often. And that makes it worth watching just because you get to feel in a way that you don't normally get to feel, at least not when watching a television show or some kind of media.
I agree with that very much. One of the things that's good about it is that it's not like anything else.
No.
Maybe that's also one of the things that's it's frustrating about it sometimes, or unsatisfying.
I loved the moment Chantal's last conversation in the van. It's one of my favorite moments when he says, that guy, and he said, yeah, he's passed away. Oh, yeah,
he was a nice guy.
Owed him money. You feel bad about that? Yeah. It's one of my favorite conversations in the entire series. It's just so good. I could watch Tim Roth's Hutch all damn day long.
Hutch and Chantal were a great part of the series. And like a lot of the characters in this
house
season,
and he's going, yeah, it's going to be a long day. And he's great. It's just...
Well, and when it's going to be so long, she's pissed off that it's the last
bag, Hutch. It's the last.
And it's not like they can leave and get more Cheetos because then Dougie could show up and they would miss murdering him.
What? And
that they would have Cheetos unless a Polish accountant murders them.
She eats all the half bags. Leaves bags of Cheetos everywhere. That's why I noticed, because we were watching today and yesterday all the old ones. The first episode, the episode where he goes to the farm to get his wound looked at.
Mm-hmm.
She sees him, and when she's sending him off, she takes a pack of Cheetos out of her back pocket and puts it in his hand. And I didn't notice that, of course, at first, because who notices that? But now I realize it's true love to her. She's giving him true love.
Mm-hmm.
The last bag, Hutch. Last fucking bag. Very good. I like it.
And the detectives Fusco were a lot of fun.
I loved the Fuscos. I loved the Fuscos, and over the course of the season, I went from not liking the Mitchums very much to really loving them.
Yeah, I had Mitchum apathy at the outset. I didn't see what could possibly be interesting about them when they first showed up, and I went to adoring them by the end.
Our first introduction to them, they just seemed like stock tough guys, mobsters. The scene of them kicking the shit out, Rodney kicking the shit out of the manager of the Silver Mustang. I just thought, like, okay, I've seen these characters a million times. And honestly, that's kind of how I feel about Hutch and Chantal. They were okay, and Jennifer Jason Leigh is always compelling. But I felt like it felt recycled from someone else's movie, specifically Quentin Tarantino's movie.
Quentin Tarantino, yes, it was totally Tarantino.
And it reminded me of how done with Quentin Tarantino I am, and how I really look forward to never seeing anything else that he does.
It reminded me how much I love Quentin Tarantino. It really did. That scene totally reminded me how much I love Tarantino. And I thought, wow, this is like a Tarantino movie. And I'm watching Tarantino cast members.
Yeah. But something from this season that I will always remember as just absolute greatness is Wally Brando, who that was so long ago now, but boy, was that good.
I'm not quite there yet, but I'm close to memorizing that, because there's going to be some point in all of our lives when you realize this is your moment. This is when you can give the Wally Brando speech, and it's going to make it better.
I hope I'm there when you do it, Marc-Anthony. I really do.
Oh, I must be.
My shadow is always with me. Sometimes behind. Sometimes to the left, sometimes to the right. Except on cloudy days.
I think that my prediction, this is my prediction, Noah. I don't know if you want to take it down. My prediction is that over the course of the next week, there will be 30% enormous backlash.
How are we going to
70%, 30% enormous backlash over this finale and the series itself. 70% of people exclaiming genius. No, 60% of people exclaiming genius and 10% saying it was stupid, I don't give a shit. Even though they just watched all 18 episodes.
Do you guys read Joel Bacco's blog? He's written an essay after every episode of this. And I think he's one of the internet's most insightful Twin Peaks analysts. He's also responsible for the video series on YouTube called A Journey Through Twin Peaks, which is an excellent and very insightful multi-part analysis of the original series, as well as Firewalk with Me and the Missing Pieces. And I have become accustomed to looking forward to his essays on Sunday nights, usually late. But he's also been one of the people who clearly thinks the world of Lynch and Frost and Twin Peaks. He loves this with all his heart, but he's also able to be critical of it and talk about his disappointments. I'm not really going anywhere with this other than to say the interest will continue, because there are a lot of people who I have been, or at least a handful of people, whose commentaries I've been following, and I'm very interested. I feel a little bit the way I felt after part 8. What are people going to say about this?
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what people are going to say.
I think there's going to be a lot of speculation about something in the future, because, I mean, it's like, Doc at the end of Back to the Future saying, it's about your kids.
Right.
There's a sequel. And he said, wait, what year is it? And she screams, and it's like.
Yeah.
It did feel like, Agent Cooper will return
But not that one. Oh, not that one, maybe.
Also, like the first season, I mean, we know that the first season ended with all those cliffhangers because they wanted to get a second season.
Right.
And the second season also ended, of course, with one of history's great twists and cliffhangers, on the part, at least partly in the hopes that that might fuel interest in a third season. And I had been thinking, you know, a lot of the talk about the possibility of a fourth season or a movie or some kind of follow-up, everyone's been very vague about it. And I thought maybe the reason for all the vagueness is that there's something about the way this ends that we don't know yet, but after we see the finale, we're going to know why there can't be any more, or something like that.
Right.
But can't really say that. That's part of it. I mean, you know, this cliffhanger of the how's Annie at the end of the second season. Fire Walk with Me deepens the mystery and expands seemingly endlessly on the pain and trauma of this story. 25 years later, coming back to it and giving us a series that has largely been a deepening of mysteries and a multiplying of unanswered questions. I think it did feel like, come on, guys, this was your chance to put a nice button on this. This was it.
I certainly didn't want a nice button on it, but I understand that the impetus, you know, a lot of people are going to want that. I would have been disappointed if it was neatly tied up in a bow, and
of course, yeah, me too.
And if the ending was too happy too, I think I would have been grumbling a bit.
I'm with you on that, and I don't really when I've over the course of this conversation tonight, sometimes I feel like I sound harsher and more disappointed than I really am. So keep that in mind too.
I had a big anxiety attack yesterday. Was it yesterday? Because I realized suddenly that there was no way to solve everything. There was no way to answer every question. I had always known this, and I was just finally looking it in the face, and I actually had an anxiety attack because I thought, how's Lynch going to do this? How's he going to satisfy me? How am I going to be able to live? And I think I had that attack, and so I'm able now to look at it all and say it's been very entertaining. It's been very artistic. It's been very entertaining, and I think I will watch these last 2 hours again far more relaxed because A, I'm not watching it for the first time. B, I'm not feeling sick to my stomach, which I really was. C, I'm not doing this after, which is a thing. Right. I'm taking notes, I'm getting ready. I think I'm going to sit down and look at it, and I think I'm going to find it artistic, and I'm also going to be a little pissed off at what I see as the just not inability to read a room. If you're going to be an artist who puts work out there and you want people to embrace it, you got to give them a little bit of what they want, and it can't just be like 3 seconds of the thing drive by. I got a Dale Cooper drive by, punch in the face, and that was it.
Would you say, do you think that the ending, the very ending, did it feel spiteful to you?
Spiteful?
Yeah, like it was spiteful that Lynch and Frost were kind of withholding the kind of satisfaction you're talking about.
No.
Out of spite.
That's the thing that kills me. I don't think that there's like, you can't read room. You're just, there's something missing. There's a chip missing. You don't know what to include. You don't know what not to include. You're a little too indulgent in your own self. You forget what people don't know that you already do because you made the damn thing up. You know?
To make a comparison with an artist whose work I've lived with a lot longer than I've lived with David Lynch and Frost, Woody Allen, who is like David Lynch in that he's an all-controlling auteur who basically makes what he wants. Woody Allen is famous for denying happy endings. He doesn't do it every time, but a lot of his most noteworthy works are movies that people love, but they have a problem with the ending, which often seems cold. His endings are sometimes, they may seem to have elements of unearned tragedy. And it feels like the artist is saying, I know how you want this to wind up. I know how to send you home with a smile, but that wouldn't be true. That's not how life is. Life is confusing and tragic, and my work is going to reflect that. And I'd rather be honest than numb you with the kind of satisfying hat ending that more mindless forms of entertainment grant. In his case, because the films that is said about are human stories about human problems, and they're very kind of mostly straightforward, literal kind of works, you can say, okay, if that's what it is, okay. I mean, you know, we don't say Chekhov should have written a more cheerful ending. We say, you know what you're getting when you when you see a Chekhov play. Twin Peaks, because it seems to occupy an imaginary dream state anyway. Is there any, could there have possibly been an earned ending for a piece that so consistently veers off of literal reality?
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is no. I mean, not a satisfying earned ending.
People want to know the mythology, I think, or I do. I want to know the mythology. I want to know how things got that way, and I want to know why things are that way. Part of this whole world is that you can't answer why things are this way. There are no rules. There are no hard and fast rules. I mean, I think, you know, if somebody gave me a book, that said, this is how I'm explaining this all to you. Here's the book you read after you watch everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I could do it. It would be fine. But that's like, you know, calling Stephen King and saying what happened after the book ended to this character. Like, you know, it's just, it doesn't exist.
No.
It's not there. I can't wonder what Dale is doing now. Or I'm crazy.
So I guess we're not counting on Mark Frost's forthcoming book to help
the
us
final
out.
dossier. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that might shed some light on a couple of things, but I doubt we're going to.
Not if it contradicts half of what happened in the series.
Well, yeah, I mean, the secret history certainly. Well, and that's the other thing, is that apparently Frost was asked about those contradictions, and he said, just wait, everything will make sense.
And it doesn't.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
And you know what David Lynch said about the secret history of Twin Peaks?
He had nothing to do with that.
I haven't read it.
Yeah.
He never
He
read
made a book about Twin Peaks.
All right, friends. I think we're nearing the end of our final
I think
vlog.
we are. This has been loads of fun, talking to you guys about this series, and it's been great to get together for this. And so let's keep it going. Let's keep talking about other stuff. Those of you that are watching, please follow us on social media, as Noah pointed out earlier, and we will make announcements when we're going to be discussing other things in the near future. We might have some things that are planned ahead of time. We might have some surprise discussions out of nowhere if news events call our attention to the internet.
Yeah, and thank you, everybody. I mean, thank you, Marc-Anthony and Amanda. I love you both, and this has been a damn pleasure. And everybody who's been watching us and commenting and following along, we appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody who's been watching.
Yeah, thank you so much. It means the world to us.
It's brilliant. It's great, and I do have one very solid thesis of Stone, and that is that the next thing we talk about is not going to be DuckTales.
No, maybe there's only one thing we really can talk about, and we have to make another one.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Ooh, I have rabbit fur in my mouth. This has been.
We will see you some other time, folks.
All right.
Take care.
We'll see you again in 25 years.